user. It's a field app for gathering data. And I visited a customer site up in Portland, Maine last year in February, and they do natural gas lines. So I'm like, okay, show me how you do it. So I actually had to have my device with my testing software, a parka, gloves, a GPS antenna, and the guy made me carry his toolbox and shovel while it was snowing. He's like, well, this is what we do every day. Oh, wow, it's a lot different than testing in a lab. You know, and if you try to use an iPad in a snowstorm, it presents like some really unique things that you have to go back and rethink. So yeah, so the research, it helps validate your ideas or invalidate them. And in the end, just to build a better product. So some of the basic building blocks to doing research or testing really comes down to you got to define an objective of what you want to test. Some scenarios, scenarios and tasks. Those two kind of go into building your test plan. Then actually putting your test plan into play, you'll facilitate your test or you'll observe a test. And at the end, summarize your results. So we'll kind of dive into each one of these areas a little bit. So first, we're going to define our objectives. So the objectives form the basis for all your test plans. So first, you really need to identify any open questions. You can take a particular part of an interface, or you can take a whole website if you want. We tend to look at particular pieces or workflows that we want to make sure are good. So we'll identify any open questions we have about it. We get concerns from our stakeholders. Our product managers sometimes will be like, okay, you're the designer, I trust you, I don't get it, but okay, you'll either, one of us will be right through user testing. So we get their concerns. And if there's any particular areas of interest about the app, whether it's we redesigned this one piece, can they find it? Can they use it? Does it make sense? So we'll write all that stuff down, sort of like as a checklist or series of questions that you can in writing our test plan. So I have a short example here of how that would kind of come to be. So if you had a new site that you were selling shoes, running shoes, and you did the new navigation on the left, all these kind of nice categories, this nice little range slider on the top for zoning in on price. Some open questions might be, okay, now when we test this, our shopper are going to understand how to navigate through all categories. How will they prefer to find shoes given a price range? Are they just going to browse through there? Are they going to use the sort? Are they going to use the range finder? So there's different options. So it's like, okay, I'm curious as to what people's habits are. What will they prefer to use? So some concerns might be when I was looking at this particular site for the example, like, okay, I can add stuff to my favorites. I've identified a couple shoes that I can add to a favorites list. I couldn't really figure out how to get back to my list. I'm like, okay, so that might be a concern I would have to test with. Or maybe that came from my product managers, where, again, the designer, the developers are like, this makes perfect sense. I'm like, it's like, yeah, maybe not. If there's any other particular areas of interest, where in this interface, so I would be really interested in, will shoppers use the price range? It's a nice interface up there, and some of us designers will probably I completely get it. But someone who doesn't use that every day, it might be kind of different to this shopping experience. So some things to keep in mind. So any questions so far? It's kind of like, get questions, stop me, throw them out. And kind of get to some little interactive pieces here. I was going to be a different setup and people could write down easier. We're going to do a little worksheet, but I'll just kind of step through it. So knowing some of the things that I mentioned here with these questions and concerns and areas, I picked out one of my sites that I probably spend, I'll tell my wife who's sitting here kind of keep my car, but I might spend a little too much money on. This is a site for motorcycle parts. So they have a really neat feature on there where you can add a garage. So I can add my particular motorcycle to there, and it caters the site to show me stuff that fits mine. So whenever I find something, it's like, okay, they've already done the work for me, and I can, yeah, I can trust that it's good. So if that was a new feature, anybody think of like any questions you would want, like if you had to like go and user test this? You know, what were some questions you would want?
Well, to try to find out if a new user can even find out about that feature.
Right. You know, back there?
How do you feel about telling us about your things?
Yeah, so some privacy concerns. Any other questions? Any areas of interest? Yeah.
What if you're ready to upgrade?
That's a good one. Yeah, if you're ready to upgrade, what if you're ready to upgrade your bike? Yep, I've had that too. A year ago, so I sold one and I got another one. So now I had to like, oh, okay, I gotta change all that over. Any other concerns or yeah?
What about if your bike is somewhat customized, so it will not fit?
Yeah, so maybe the suggestions they're making, you might know that they don't really fit. So how can you use the site to compensate for that? So yeah, so these are all great things that you might want to put into a user test and start writing some scenarios and tasks, which we'll come to get people to use and try those specific things. We'll do one more, just get people going. Strava, I've only recently discovered, I'm like late to the bandwagon on Strava. I started using this. Wait, see, I've got one follower and one friend. If you're on Strava, you've got a friend rate. But they've got a feature on there for challenges. So, like, okay, if I was to introduce this new feature to this, I've used it just like, okay, this is great for tracking and running, tracking biking, but what are these challenge things? So you might have any questions you would want to ask somebody if you wanted to test this on challenge? Yes?
Will other users know where I live?
Again, privacy is definitely a big thing. How much information are you going to expose? Are people worried about that? Any other things? So one of the things that I kind of looking at was there were certain challenges I wanted to know, like, are there rules to joining these challenges? Are they clear? Do I know what I'm getting into? If I join a challenge, can I decide to, like, I don't want to do this challenge anymore? Or, what happens? Is there a winner? What happens if I win? So things like that. So things that kind of set people up where you're not sure what's going to happen with some of these. But it really comes down to, there's your objective has to be is like, if there's any ideas or questions about the interface, about the feed, about a particular feature, about a workflow that you really aren't sure about, that you really want to understand better. So from there, we'll get into scenarios and tasks. So you got your objective. You know what part of the project you want to test and you want to look at. So now you need to write some scenarios, and this is the part that is going to you're going to share with the person you're testing, your participant. So the scenario set up a story and context that your participant will have to put themselves into. They specify any goals or questions you want to answer. Who the user is, what they're trying to do, and why. It's kind of one of the main parts there. I mean, one of the big tricks to writing scenarios is not to give away answers. So by that I mean we try really hard not to use words that are the same as in the interface that we want to test. So it's like, okay, for challenges, I know, well, how do I get them to say, how would you learn more about challenges without saying challenges? Because you don't want to plant those seeds to like, okay, I've matched up what you said you want. I see it on the screen. I found it. So That's actually gets to be a much tougher part of it than you think. So one of the example I came up with, so again on the shoe site, if I was to write a scenario for doing a broad test for that, this might be a good example. So you're a runner, you're looking to buy a new pair of shoes, you need a pair of lightweight shoes that are within your budget. So most of us can kind of like put ourselves in that scenario and relate to it. I don't run, but okay, I mountain bike or I backpack, so I can put myself in that story. You kind of gave me some clues. I need to find a particular type of product, and there's some constraints. So again, here we've specified, the runner is our who, and what they're trying to do. They're trying to buy a pair of shoes. And our questions to be answered will, how will the interface help them find something that is lightweight and within their budget? So to go with your scenario, you'll have some tasks for them to do. So these kind of get a little bit more specific. They state only what the user wants to do. The task tell, let's see, these are my notes here. They don't include information on how to complete the scenario. So that gets back to like using certain words, not using certain words. And you don't want to clue them into the workflow. You want to see where they're going to take you. The task will let your participant show you how they're planning to use the app or the site, how they'll use your filters, use your searches. This is where you find out, like, they're going to use it in ways you didn't intend, ways that you didn't plan. Sometimes they'll do exactly what you want. Okay, that's great. It worked. We did our job. So for that first scenario, these might be 2 example tasks that I would write for that. So my first task would be, okay, find some lightweight shoes that fit you for under $100. And then gets to my second concern, my area of concern, the favorites. Now that you found these, pick 2 and save them to your favorites. So one of the things that we try not to do here is we try and leave some of the tasks a little bit more open-ended. A bad example might be, okay, find a pair of orange Nike running shoes or something. And I've seen this happen. I wrote it in some lines. Like, okay, find a pair of men's orange Nike running shoes. And my participant is a woman who doesn't run and hates the color orange. Like, okay, so versus find something that you would like. As long as it's lightweight and it's under $100, I don't care what brand it is. As long as that doesn't matter. As long as you can do these tasks, I can learn whether our interface accomplishes this or not. So let's see. We'll go back to my favorite site. So back to the garage. So you might have an example of a scenario that you would write for that kind of feature. If you're trying to test the garage. So, yes.
A little bit more about what that is. I actually have no idea what that is.
Oh, okay. So the scenario is what sets up the story of like who you are, what you're trying to do. So an example of like you're a runner, you're trying to find a new pair of shoes that fits within your budget.
I'm in the garage.
Oh, the garage on here. Oh, that's a feature where so this site sells maintenance and customizing and all kinds of parts for motorcycles. And the garage will let me add my particular year, make, and model in there. And once it's saved in there, and I go and look for tires, I don't ever have to worry about what size tires does mine have. They know. They're only going to show me what fits my vehicle, as long as I add my vehicle into that garage. So anybody have an example? So yeah, go ahead, give it a shot.
Show what custom parts are available for my standard bike.
Right. Anyone else?
What was it?
Show what parts are available for my custom bike. Yes.
So the scenario could just be
Perfect. Yeah, that's exactly what they want to do, because a lot of times people have been there, they've already added it, but they want you like, okay, you got a new motorcycle, you want to add it. Anyone else? Yes.
I'm a weekend motorcyclist and I want to go on a road trip. What do I need?
Yeah. Yep. What do I need to prepare for that? Yes, exactly. Some other one might be, you know, I own 2 motorcycles. How do I know, you know, I want to be able to add both of them to my garage, or like someone said before, I've got one older one and one new one that I need to change out. So these are various features of this garage, one that I would need to test. So some tasks might be, okay, go ahead and add your new motorcycle. Add your, throw mine in there, add your 2015 Triumph Explorer to the garage. So that way you can give somebody enough information. It's like, okay, you're sort of filling out the field, give them a year, make a model, say, okay, add this type of thing to the garage, and now see if that makes sense. Can you do that? Sometimes maybe we'll put an older motorcycle in there. Like, okay, pretend you've already had one in there. How do you know, the next task would be like, remove your old one. Or add your motorcycle, and then the second task is go find a custom part for it. So you're testing multiple areas, multiple features at the same time. You're testing a workflow. And that'll tell you, that'll give you a lot of data, a lot of information to work through.
So Eric, are you suggesting that you not just use motorcycle enthusiasts for your testing? Because if you did, you could just say, take your latest motorcycle and put it in the garage. You know,
right.
But for people like me who don't own motorcycles, then you have to tell us that it's a Triumph and this.
Yeah, and a lot of times we will make sure that we have that information, because sometimes when we do testing, a lot of times we'll go to our conferences and have a lab set up, and we'll just kind of like grab people like, hey, between sessions, hey, you want to come and do a user test for us? And we don't know their background, so it's kind of like they're at our conference, so we kind of know a little bit about them. But yeah, it's, you know, recruiting is a whole another art to this. But yeah, some things I might try and leave open-ended enough. It's like, okay, you don't have a motorcycle, but you probably have a car. So can you relate to this? If you were needed to buy new tires for your car, okay, so just pretend it's got 4 wheels instead of 2. So sometimes you just kind of have to get people to use their imagination a little bit. But yeah, recruiting, I didn't even go into this into recruiting, and probably the guys here at BFR have a whole another science of finding the right people. But yeah, particularly for this, I would try and find other enthusiasts. So, and for Strava, so the scenario might be find a challenge that you know, for you want to go mountain biking this weekend, you want to join a challenge in your area. Find a challenge. Task 1 is find a challenge in your area. The second one is read up on the rules and see if you qualify. Task 3, join the challenge. So bottom line, we try and keep these scenarios pretty short. There's only a certain amount of time that you've got people's attention. You can't get them to sit down to do a test for 2 hours before they just kind of glass over and they're like, okay, I'm just following instructions. Our longest test that we do might be about 40 minutes. If we know that it's particular software, and these are users of that software, that we're testing a feature that's going to impact their lives, they'll probably be a little bit more interested to see what we're working on. But in general, 20 minutes, about that, is enough for us to be able to kind of go through. It doesn't impact their day too much. You've gotten enough information to test a workflow or a feature. So those are the basic parts of writing your test plan. So once you've got a test plan written, then you need to actually do the test. Any questions so far on Objectives, scenarios, tasks. Yes, factor.
How many scenarios usually do?
Some tests that I've written, I've done upwards of 4 scenarios. There's other ones that we've just done. We want to just do quick tests, so it's been one scenario. One scenario with 2 or 3 tasks. We're just trying to find, we moved stuff around on the site. Can you just at least find it before we moved it? The content didn't change, the rest of the page didn't change. We just moved it. Some things where we built a whole new features that really impact the workflow of the software. I'll go through 2 or 3 scenarios and try and build on top of each other. So the first scenario is, okay, can you configure this? And the second scenario is, now that you've configured it, can you do something with it? And then the third thing is, now can you save it or share it or export it or something like that. I break them down into smaller pieces, but distinct workflows that makes it easier to go back and evaluate your results later. Yep.
Maybe I'm getting ahead of you. I'm doing service design now. These are an area I don't know. How do you, so to speak, test your test? Do you do that?
Yeah,
strategy?
I'll actually run through a test with another designer who is not familiar with the app that I'm working on, but they're familiar with the process, so I don't have to explain what a test is, what a scenario is. Like, hey, we're just doing a sanity check on this. This is a new app. You haven't seen this app. And we generally try and find people that have as little exposure to what I've been designing and working on as possible, so that way they're as close to being a user as possible, and make sure that they don't, we do that quite a bit, because I've found, like, I forgot that they need a login here. Okay, let me go create a fake account. So it's like, okay, now let's try it again. Here's a username and password to log in. Now I'll do this. It's like, oh, okay, I needed to actually populate some data on there, because I asked them to do something with data, and I forgot to put data there. So yeah, definitely, test with other people internally first.
Dress rehearsal.
Exactly. Yeah.
Do you do anything to check that the questions you're asking, the scenarios you're posing, the tasks you're posing are again, quality or relevant?
It really goes back to, do they map to my objective? What is it I'm trying to learn? What is it I'm trying to understand? What are my concerns with the app? And am I asking the user to do the right things that are going to test that? Are they going to touch that part of the app or that part of the workflow? As long as those two kind of match up, and the objectives mainly are for you and your team. Your participant doesn't see those, but those are your yardstick that you're going to write to, you're going to test to, and then at the end you're going to say, okay, do my results support my objective? Do they prove me wrong? Do they prove me right? And so forth. Any questions? All right. So facilitating and observing. So now this is actually, you've got someone to sit down and participate. And so how do you do it? So once again, to give myself a little bit of a second here.
Ladies and gentlemen, for the last 90 minutes, you've had an opportunity to explore standard movie phone upgraded with a brand new operating system. Oh, please. Thank you all for being here. Alan, Lisa, Josh, Yana, Katie, Ramon. Sounds like everyone's first impressions. Who'd like to jump in? Anyone? How about you, Ramon? It's just stupid. So, Ramon, Mr. Phone is stupid. Could you elaborate, Ramon? Stupid how? Please, be as specific as possible. Well, it's slow. The app keeps quitting on me. I tried to watch a movie, and it kept freezing up. And when I'm typing, there's a delay. Then all the letters pop up at once. You took a good phone and you made it all shit. This is awful. I appreciate your honesty. That's just one guy's opinion. Who else feels this product is stupid? John, Yana, Katie. And did it piss off anyone else? Alan, Lisa, Josh, Yana, Katie, Christina. Imagine. Be honest. This is Windows Mr. Ed.
So, that's kind of one of my favorites to bring into showing why we like to bring our stakeholders into the test as well. Just that's a particular kind of like a focus group test. If you're doing a lab test, what we usually do at our conferences is we'll have a small booth set up with a computer. The participant comes in, and they're being monitored in another room. So some people are watching on headphones in the back. But the way it kind of usually goes at testing session is your participant arrives. As the facilitator, I try to be there to greet them. So make them feel comfortable. Thank them. You can't thank your participant enough. They're giving up their time, especially like for us when they've paid to come to a conference, and now we're asking them to either skip a session, a talk, or something, or their lunch to do some sort of free work for us. So yeah, you can't thank them enough for doing this. We come into the lab. First thing I'll do is kind of like, okay, part of how this works is you gotta think aloud. I can't, telepathically find out what you're thinking when you're using this. It does seem unnatural, so I'll just be here to remind you, like, once in a while you might hear me ask a question or just remind you to say, hey, think aloud. I'm not trying to bug you, but it helps me. It helps us observers find out what's wrong with this. We let them know that they're going to be, start working through the scenarios and tasks. We ask them to, as they're going through the sheet, to read everything aloud. This helps me know that as a facilitator, know that they're going through it, and where we are in the tests. Once all the scenarios are tested and complete, then we'll end the session. We'll end the video for recording. It's also before after that, it's also a good time to ask any open-ended questions. So, okay, you went through all this stuff. I noticed you had a hard time with this one particular feature. Was there something that really, you didn't like about it? Was there something that you really loved about this experience? So it's something it's hard to test, but getting that gut reaction, when they feel like the test is no longer happening, they'll give you some really blunt statements. I hated this because this is not like anything else. And our particular users they use many of our apps at the same time. They're like, this doesn't look like any of your other apps. Or, well, why did you do this here when over this other app that I use all the time, you do it differently there? Oh, shit. Good catch. I should have caught that. So in some cases like that, they're doing a workflow between particular apps that we had no idea people were doing. It's like, wow, I never would have thought to match what that interface is doing with mine. Again, thank the participant. If you get a budget to give them an incentive, then that's the good time to say thank you. Here's your prize. Here's your sometimes it's cash. We usually can get T-shirts from our conference. We have a store that they give all kinds of T-shirts are for sale. So if they come and do our test, and now you don't have to buy one from the store. You can have one for free. That's kind of a nice little hook to get them to come in and participate in the first place. And then it's a repeat. You just kind of do it over again. So as a facilitator, you've got some responsibilities, some duties. For me, a designer, an introvert, even doing stand up here is hard. Doing this is hard. This is a skill, and it takes a lot of practice. And these are some of the things that I have to remind myself before I do it. Again, to be relaxed and rushed. If you're tense and you're nervous about this, the person who's doing the test is going to pick up on that. Like, okay, what's going on here? But if I'm relaxed, there's part of the welcoming them into the test is just to hey, how's it going? You have a good conference? What do you do? Oh, that's interesting. You know, tell me more about, you know. So you do surveying for such and such. Wow, that's, you know, what's your day like? You know, I never even thought about that. You know? So kind of like, oh, okay, this person's interested in actually what I do. So what I have is value. Reassure them that we're not testing you. We're testing the app, the product, the app. And if you make mistakes, that's actually great. That helps me make it better. You know, I'm not putting something broken out into the world and then have to fix it later. So you're by making mistakes, by having difficulty, and telling me that now, it's just, you know, you're going to make things better for the people who are going to have to use it after you. Be respectful of their time. Again, like I said, in our cases, they're taking time out of their conference. If you're pulling people off the street just to do a quick survey, well, you know, that's a 5-minute delay, 10-minute delay in getting to the coffee shop or wherever they were going. So, you know, don't pull someone aside that is probably going somewhere and say, hey, can you spend a half an hour doing this? So that's, you know, guerrilla testing is a whole other thing where it's like quick, you know, 5 minutes tops. A couple of questions, take a, you know, a little survey. You can get some information that way. Don't let them feel dumb. If they get stuck in an interface, it's like, it's always very difficult to not want to jump in like, the button's right there, just, your mouse is almost there, just click it. But then it's like, okay, you know, we're having trouble with this. Is there something you're looking for? Is there, you know, what are you thinking? That's a good time, because when people are starting to get stuck on something, they'll get quiet. And that's when you as a facilitator try not to bug them, but you want to know now they're thinking a lot of things. What are they thinking? What are they looking for? What problem are they trying to solve to get to? It's a good time to keep it back. Keeping track of time. If the test starts to go too long, they're getting stuck to somewhere. Don't be afraid to like, okay, we're going to skip the second scenarios because we got a lot of information from the first. So what'd you think? Again, remind them to think aloud. And at the same time, listen and watch what they're doing. There's a lot that they'll tell you just, you know, through body language, through leaning into the screen, looking for something. The mouse will hunt around, you know, like, I'm not sure where to click. Something's going on there. You know, hopefully your observers are making note of that. And again, asking the probing questions. What are you looking for? Is it, you know, the observers. Oh, another question, yes.
Yeah, so in terms of observing, maybe asking these questions early. You mentioned you videotape that.
Mm-hmm.
You also have sort of like a screen recorder app that there.
Yeah, there's I can't remember if I had some notes at the end. I've got a doc that I'll share out, a repo or Google Drive folder with links and stuff. We've got software that we use called Moray, which does all kinds of cool stuff, but it's not. I have done that with Google Hangouts. Google Hangouts is free and lets you record to a private channel on YouTube. So you can record somebody and not have it public, and then go there and download the file and delete it off of YouTube. You can remote test that way. So you can do it anywhere from a huge budget to no budget. Right. There's tools out there. Some of them will let you do, you know, makes this part a little easier or harder. But yeah, if you're, any other questions on facilitating, or yes?
Have you ever considered using retrospective think aloud as opposed to concurrent?
I'm not familiar with that. Can you tell me more?
Yeah, so concurrent think aloud is having the participant think aloud as they're doing a task, and retrospective is asking them to recall what they were doing after completing the task.
Yeah.
They're like the same nuances between the two.
Yeah, we'll do that to some degree. Sort of, we'll say that to the end, and then kind of like, you know, if the test isn't long, it's a little easier to be like, okay, back on that first scenario, when we actually do something, you really have a hard time. Can we talk about that for a second? You know, what made it difficult? And once you finally figured it out, what was it that helped you figure it out? It's like, oh, I finally saw the button. Okay, well maybe we really need to revisit where that button is, what color that button is, something like that. But yeah, when the participant was really trying to be on their best behavior for you. They're trying, they're like, okay, I want to make you proud and make you, think that this works. So it's kind of the battle there of like, no, I want you to break it. I want you to show me where it doesn't. But yeah, coming back to that afterwards, kind of like parking those ideas and not letting them get stuck. We try not to do that in the moment, which is why I let them get through the task, and then come back later and say, okay, let's revisit that. Yes?
Is there a difference between participants that you schedule ahead of time and the participants we pull sort of like while they're on the way to something? Because I imagine like somebody who's on the way to lunch that you pull might have less patience than somebody who knew that they were going to come into a test. Does that skew the results at all?
That's a really good question. I don't think we've ever really dove into that. For us, one of the problems that we have, particularly at conferences, is we'll schedule people, but we're not that high on their importance, the priority list. So there's a lot of times we'll have empty sessions. It's like, okay, they're not here. We try and send them a text to remind them, like, hey, just a reminder, we're upstairs. We're going to be waiting for you in about half an hour. And it's like, oh, if I was at a conference and, someone was asking me to do the same thing, it's kind of be like, gosh, there's a really interesting session coming up. That or sit and do a test. So having been on both sides, I can say, yeah, I can understand why they might just like, heck with it, I'm not going to show up. And then we have to pull someone in. So, but yeah, it would be interesting to look at that, to see if that skews their patience a little bit more. Yes?
I used to work at a company where we had user conferences, and we would make the testing sort of like a feature, almost like it was one of the presentations or whatever. And we had little tchotchkes, we got people, so we did grab people in the hall, but we also had special times like 10 to 10:30 or whatever. And especially if there was a break between sessions, this is the great user testing thing,
Right.
Tell us your feedback, so we sort of made it like a big deal, and we were pretty successful. We definitely got a lot of people.
Yeah, it's tough to do. I found that if we let them know, if they think what they're going to test is some new secret thing that they're going to get the sneak preview of next year's model sort of thing, they'll show up. But it's like, oh, we just want to have you test this data analysis feature that we just kind of moved a bunch of stuff around. It's so boring. I even hate conducting those tests because they're boring. But yeah, if it's something new and exciting, like, hey, this is something we're not released yet, so you're going to have to promise not to tell anybody. Like, oh, okay, well, now I'm interested. So yeah. Any other questions on that? So observing. As I said, when we set up a lab in our conferences, we'll typically have a room somewhere with a computer, the facilitator, the participants sitting there. We let them know, hey, this is going to be, there's a webcam here. There's people behind the curtain. This is not like some secret weird thing going on. We are going to record you. It's for us only. We're not putting this on YouTube. There's no bloopers anywhere. It's just they're going to be back there. They're going to take notes, and they're going to be my hands so that I can be present here to note like when things are going wrong. So they're just there to help me out. So it kind of sets the tone, like, okay, reassures them there's nothing going on. But as an observer, it's kind of like, seems like a kind of a cushy job. You just sit in the back room, pair of headphones, and watch what's going on and make some notes. So your job is just to listen, watch closely, keep an open mind about what they're going to do, take notes. However, it can be a little bit more than that. So, good note takers, they're going to watch for facial body cues. When we record, we'll do a picture-in-picture, so we've got the remote screen, the desktop, and the webcam that's looking at them. So again, looking for hunting around the screen. You know, if they're kind of like, oh, I'm not understanding, or they're kind of like in front of their face, that all means something. Like, okay, they're anxious about something, they can't, they're frustrated. Listening to the language that they use. It's very easy to go to watch and go, oh, yep, they couldn't find this button. Make a note. Couldn't find button at, task 2. But sometimes they'll tell you, and that's if the facilitator is doing a good job, they're going to tell you what they're looking for, why they're looking for it. They might relate it again to some other product they use in their normal everyday. It's a good thing to remember that the product that you're testing is not what they're going to sit down and do from the minute they get to work to the minute they leave. They're going to use email, they're going to use their phone, they're going to use all kinds of other stuff. So they might tell you, like, oh yeah, well, in Word, I'm used to this over here. Oh, okay, that's interesting. So good things to make note of. Certain things we call like head slappers. So there'll be things that the users will do and point out. Where this is great. I've seen a stakeholder, a product owner, come in to watch his product being tested, and someone will just royally fail on it. And something that he was certain this is the way to go, and it just failed. And just like, oh, he's like, okay, and the designers or whoever told him, like, I'm not sure about this. And he's like, no, I'm sure. And that's a good way for, he got it, pure, data right from the source there. He didn't have to wait for a report. He didn't have to go, well, this might be your opinion. Did people really do this? Which we've gotten. It's like, okay, you might have added some alternative facts into your report. Like, no, here it is. You saw it. But also make note of what people are passionate about. Sometimes they'll find some part of that app that they're really excited about. Like, this is cool. I find new apps like for my phone and stuff all the time. Strava, I've been using that. There's another motorcycle route planning that, as I'm working for a mapping company and finding somebody else's map apps that are really cool. It's like, wow, this is neat. And I've shown people, like, we need to dig into what they're doing here. This has been really easy to use. So now, what makes it easy to use? And your testers will tell you that. And if there's anything that's inspiration, they'll tell you, oh, this is great. This is just like, oh, okay, go look at whatever it was just like. So, some things to remember. Brace yourself. You might be disappointed by your users' reactions. Again, the reason why we try and have the people who design it not be the same people who test it, because you're too close to it. So I might try and bias it a little bit, but that's what it's there for. You might be, people might not like what you've done. I'll also remember, like, the participants are on their best behavior, so they're trying really hard to make you, make your stuff succeed. So balance that out a little bit. Focus on their actions and explanations, and on what they do. And like I said, for bonus, get your stakeholders to be observers, and that for us has design, UI, UX being bought into more and more. We don't have a struggle anymore of convincing people that we're important and what we do is valuable. And especially getting your stakeholders in there, like, okay, now we've got them asking, can you do more testing on this? Yes, okay, we don't have to convince you that you do need us. So far, okay, I'm a little long here, so I'll just kind of like, really quickly go through like summarizing the results. So there is no, at least what I found, no perfect template to doing this. the big thing is, after each test, we meet with our team just to kind of be, as the leads, the facilitator, I'll go back and like, okay, did you guys catch this? You know, I think I saw something there. Did you make note of that? Great, okay. Well, I wasn't the only one, the other people, so we'll kind of make sure we talk about that. We'll compare the notes, note-taking. We've gone from everybody using a yellow line pad to taking their notes and just stuffing all the papers into an envelope afterwards, and trying to discern whose handwriting is the worst. It's terrible. This time around, we're experimenting with like using box notes, like one live box notes that everybody's going to update into, so that everybody's typing, and now once it's done, nobody has to kind of transcribe things. But however you can get these notes together, look for patterns in your notes. Where more users, 4 out of 5 users had errors on certain places, successes, any showstoppers. Nobody could absolutely figure this out. The product cannot go out until this feature works. And then if there's comments, everybody had a comment on this particular thing or made this, this connection somewhere. That's probably something we should look at. And then sharing your findings once you've got some sort of report together. Assess who you need to send it to. Execs higher up, they just need the high points, the bullet points. We tested this. This is what we found out. This is what we're going to change. Boom. Some of the developers, they're a little bit more picky. Okay, what exactly did they have a problem with? It's like, okay, well, we'll clip together some videos of the highlights reel. Here's all 5 users trying to do this particular task. This is where 4 of them had a problem. And then we kind of just put that, you see the results here. This is what, so then it's like, okay, this is what we suggest. Let's try this next and test it again. Or let's just make this change and go. But it helps you to emphasize that these reports are not your opinions. This is from the user. You're just there to kind of assemble it and forward. So, that, yeah?
Maybe you could ask it, but what kind of format do you use to present something? Like, do you do a presentation there? Or
sometimes we do. Sometimes it's just a doc.
Yeah.
It's hard for our higher up execs. It's hard to get their time. So a Word doc in an email that they can look at when they're on, waiting for a plane at the airport is good. Product owners, a lot of times they want to see all the evidence because that means they're going to have to make a change in their roadmap or delay releasing the next version. So they want to be sure that if they're going to make a change to this, that it's an informed decision. So they'll sometimes get a full PowerPoint presentation. Some of them will just put together some clips and here's a video clip of this particular, everybody did great except for this one task. We need to figure something out here. Here's the 5 people that have a problem with it, so forth. So it really varies on who you're going to send it, who your stakeholders are. Yep, in the back.
Yeah, so I was just wondering if you ever try to quantify those things in terms of how people do, either by pass-fail or by scoring tasks or things like that. Do you ever break down the quantification?
Not on the test that I've done. We've got some people, some researchers in the company who really dive into that quite a bit. In cases where I think that might be more necessary, I'll actually ask them to go through this whole process. Like, okay, I've done the initial test and we've made some changes based on that, but I think there's really something here that I don't understand. There's something deep down. And I'll get them. They've got a lot more in-depth research experience than I do to do that. But
do you find that in sort of influencing your stakeholders, does that quantification make a difference in terms of the types of research that you do to say, hey, look, 4 out of 5 here will solve it. We're talking to people who know this is a problem, versus somebody that can say, 80% of the people can do it, or some kind of quantification. Right. Do you find if there's any kind of a difference between the ability to influence stakeholders?
That relies on how well do you know your stakeholders.
Yeah, right.
Some of them, some product owners are, like, okay, we trust you, we believe you, okay, I got the bullet points, let's make a change and go. Some of them are like, okay, I really need convincing. With our company, we're a group of UI and UX designers that particularly for the software part of the company, and we're embedded with various teams. So part of my job is to really get to know my stakeholders. I talk many times a day directly with my product manager. I talk on a daily basis with my developers. We've got a really good team going, so hopefully my product manager, if he's seeing this live or later, we've got a good relationship where if I've got an issue that has come up in testing, or I think that needs to be tested, I can, he trusts me enough to say, okay, before we actually put this into development, I'm not sure about this. You're not sure about this. Let's go get some testing done. And it's nice to be at a place where we've got the power to do that. I don't have to kind of like, please let me just do this. And everyone's like, oh, the designer wants to go off and do something. We don't have time for it. Yeah, it varies quite a bit. So. Yep. Any other questions? Yes. What was it?
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you decide on how many number of participants are needed for any usability testing, and how to screen users?
That's a good question. I see. I'll make toss to you, but we typically go with 3 to 5. It gives us enough at first to know if there's a pattern there. Should we, if they're all successful, depends on the level of the product, we might go, okay, we feel confident enough to go forward with this. If there's enough alerts there, 3 out of 5, 4 out of 5 had problems, like, okay, let's stop, let's make a change, let's try something else, and test it again.
How do you screen the participants?
Yeah, that's a whole other talk. There's a whole art to that of trying to find the right people. There's services online. There's Media Bar. I'm sure you can go to them and say, this is the type of people that my product is for, and these are the type of people I think we need to test with. And they'll probably ask you questions like, okay, do they do this? Do they do that? Having personas as part of your design helps. Because then you can call back on that from early in your design phase, like, okay, these are the people we've identified. We've written these personas. Now let's find the real people that match these personas. Especially if you go to a service that helps you find and recruit these people, that's real helpful. Yeah.
Do you have thoughts on when you're testing a product that maybe requires users to interact with other users, testing the interdependence of different user groups? Or maybe doing kind of like a dyad interview style. Do you have experience with that or thoughts on how to structure that? As like all these scenarios are all like you're doing one for themselves.
We have points where users will have to interact with other users' data. So sometimes we'll hand a mobile device to someone, like, go walk around for the next hour, so that they can see your live, since we do mapping stuff, a lot of it's live location reporting on a map. It's like, okay, there's a couple people walking around the conference floor with live stuff. Let's try and message them and see if they respond. It's tough to work through that because you might not have control of what's going on the other end. So you need to be ready for what if they need to interact with somebody, that person is not paying attention. They've got nothing on their computer, or their phone's on silent, or something like that. And they don't respond. Like, okay, you can't let yourself get stuck. So you have to say, okay, so we learned something now. Let's go on to the next task. So really, trying to control as much of the environment as you can will give you, I think, a little better solid test. Yep.
Well, I was also just curious if you have 2 users and you have control of both of their experiences, or you have them in this time, like the right frame, to interact with each other. How are you trying to manage that? Is it just similar, or you just have 2 like lines of communication?
Yeah, I haven't had to like do that. I mean, that would be really interesting to do. I think having 2 participants, 2 facilitators, and 2 sets of observers watching what's going on would be fascinating to try. I haven't tried it, but yeah, if you do, let me know. I'm curious to how you did that. Yeah, but
if I, to use the jargon, if I map the journey, step out of just the app experience, then I can analyze the interaction that's either happening or that I want to happen or that I want to observe, and it helps my test be on. It's not just kind of, whoa, hey, do your thing, and we'll be watching.
yeah, there's a whole other type of testing like that was kind of like what I did with the out in the snow in Portland, or the ethnographic testing, where you're just kind of like, there's not a particular plan that you're executing, but it's kind of like, hey, let me put myself in your shoes for the day and just shadow you and see how you're using it. One of the interesting things I came up with on that one, and still trying to, I don't work on the mobile side of that app, but it was in the snow. And we're trying to, holding the iPad, holding everything else, and every once in a while, snow gets on the screen, so what's the natural thing to do? Wipe the screen. So now you've got a touch interface that you just took your glove off, you wiped it off, and it's like, oh, that's kind of hard to replicate in a lab. We never thought about like trying dealing with snow. Right? Still, it's another thing problem that we had is if you put the app to sleep or you put the device to sleep, it disconnects from the high accuracy antennas that we pair with to get, our apps and these antennas can actually pinpoint the GPS of a particular location sub-centimeter. So you want those things powered up and connected a lot. If you put the device to sleep, now you got to wait 2 minutes for it to connect and reboot back up. So it's kind of like, how do we, hold the interface so you can clean it off? Yes.
You actually hit on what I was going to ask.
Okay.
Like, if you're building a site like you were showing, and assuming it's like responsive design, it's meant to work across different platforms and stuff like that, how do you decide whether to give them like a mobile device, like give it to them on an iPad or on a computer to test? Or do you do both?
I wouldn't do both the same user. I would do a set of users with the web, and then do a set of users with mobile. You might find completely different problems that you need to fix for the responsive part of it. And you're gonna probably have to write different scenarios for that. So the use case of me buying parts for my motorcycle at my desk is one thing, but if I'm like, all right, I'm bored on, I'm on the metro, it's like, okay, oh yeah, I need to order oil filters. Like, okay, that's a whole other experience. And I think those are more challenging to test because to me, I think trying to test in that environment is very different than in a lab. In a lab, everything's nice and quiet, everything's perfect, the screen has no glare. Particularly for us, we try and get outside because if we're going to use our stuff outside, we got to deal with sun glare, we got to deal with hazy, we got to deal with various light conditions, rain, snow, and everything. It can work perfectly in a lab, and then you get outside and like, oh, I forgot about snow. So yeah, different scenarios for those cases. Yeah. Yes.
I was just wondering, how do you?
Yeah.
I was wondering, how do you approach testing when a product hasn't been developed yet? Do you have prototypes?
Yeah.
Around that.
We last year we did a prototype app that we had an idea that we wanted to build. We couldn't pull our developers off of what they were doing long enough to build an actual working prototype. So I did everything in Sketch and InVision. So was it the April event coming up for InVision? I'm totally that. Yeah. May? Yeah, I'm gonna be digging on that because they got some new cool stuff coming out. But yeah, we use InVision a lot. It's a demo to test with, and we'll tell participants this is not an actual product. These are screenshots. So some stuff doesn't work. So if you're going to click on things, we actually really need to talk out loud even more, because you might need to say like, okay, I want to click on this. Obviously you can't. What do you think is going to be behind that button? I've tested with just black and white wireframes, and just assess that basic workflow. Pretend this is an interface. There's a picture here. There's some buttons here. How would you get from A to B? So yeah, you can test all kinds of paper stuff. Yeah.
To that point, how many times do you recommend that you go through testing throughout all of that? Ideal world.
Ideally, I think each workflow, each major workflow throughout the apps should be at least go through one round of testing. It's an impartial, validates ideas that, okay, we all think we know what we're doing, but it's again, the user who's unpredictable is going to show you that something that you never even thought of. So the major workflows, there's little changes on an app if we're just moving something from here to there. A lot of times we'll kind of really weigh, is it worth testing? Is it just a simple change? And we really need to get it done. It's a bug that needs to be fixed. We need to be, the users will be happier that it's been fixed than unhappy that it's been moved. Yes.
First point is I happen to stumble upon similar scenario that you were mentioning, wiping the digital device. So I was working on a truck inspection app for truck drivers.
Okay.
Right, and the feature we proposed was like voice recognition. So
yeah.
You don't really need to take the device out. The device lies inside the truck or inside your jacket anywhere, but voice recognition feature was. So now my question here is, should you really validate or evaluate UI feature or a UI component?
Can you say that again? Should you validate?
As part of usability testing, should you really validate or evaluate the UI feature or a UI component that you're trying to propose?
Well, that's really a lot of what this is, centering on, where the UX and the UI kind of meet together, to help the user.
The reason why I'm asking that question is because sometimes users might not have come across that particular component or a feature. For example, your left-hand side panel had the price range.
Yep.
Let's say I'm a baby boomer and I've never come across that particular UI component. So I upright say, I do not understand what this does.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, and that could be an area of concern that you need to lay it out for. If I've in my design research, I've looked at other sites that this target audience is going to be using, and I'm trying to do something that's not, representative in anything that they're going to be familiar with. That would be some area of concern of maybe conduct a test that's specifically for that. Get them to use that and see what their reaction is. And that's where they might tell you, like, I don't understand, I don't get this at all. What are you trying to do? I've had apps that probably have been targeted at a younger audience than me, and I look at them and I go, I need more help. Snapchat, I never look at that, So, did that answer your question?
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
Yeah, this question's really for the group. So you mentioned a lot about the qualitative data measures, right? So you mentioned about 3 sample group sets, guerrilla testing, maybe some mention. When do you start kind of up the numbers of your early testers? 5, 10, 15? And when then do you go quantitative? Like, what's that decision process for you to say, you know what, I need more data sets? When do you make that decision, right?
It's a good question. I'm not sure on that answer because what we'll do is we'll do test with a small audience. If we identify a bunch of problems, we make some changes and we come back and we test again. So if you're testing with 5 people, you make a change and then you test with 5, or is that really an audience of 10? It's hard, I guess it depends on how you want to count your numbers. If you're getting paid by the test.
I can take a shot at that.
Yeah, please.
So one of the things that for quantitative, when you talk about lots of numbers, right, something already needs to be in the market. And what we're talking about here is testing something before it goes to the market to validate whether or not it's something people can and want to use, right? So once it's out, you you could use quantitative data to figure out, is there an issue? If you see drop-offs and click-throughs, if you see metrics that aren't making sense, you bring it back into a lab to talk to people on a small scale to find out why that drop-off is actually happening. So the quantitative is there a problem? Qualitative is, what is the problem, how do you fix it? Right.
Thanks, guys. Cool. Yeah, if you, so this cryptic URL down here, or if you've got, you can just scan the code with your phone. That links to a Google Drive that's got these slides on it, some resources. I've got some docs out there if you want to see. I pulled a couple of our old test plans that have the scenarios, the tasks, and everything written out. So if you want to, see what we do for testing and do a search and replace for your own products, whatever. There is a link that we've got for when we have users testing something that we're not releasing yet. We do ask them to sign an NDA. So we've got a simple one that I've put the URL into the resources doc if you want to see what that looks like. And really all it does is before we start the test, before we start recording, so make sure that they're okay with it. You're not going to release any secrets. Here's the website, here's the form. Type in your name at the bottom and hit send. And what it does is it sends our legal department an email, and it sends you an email. That, okay, we both agree that you've agreed to this. So it's a nice, easy thing, and we've got it on the web for like any time, it's accessible to any of us that we want to do some impromptu testing. There's some cool books out there. I've got a list of resources that I'll keep updating. If you're familiar with the Book Apart, there's a great one called Just Enough Research. Yeah, their books are great. And there's I'll add some links on there to some docs that I put together on how to use things like Google Hangouts to record a remote session. So you want to, someone's willing to test, you've got friends and family that are willing to run through a test for you, but they're like in Oregon. Get on Google Hangout and record it. It's easy. You can have them share their desktop. Disadvantage is you can't see the picture-in-picture, but at least you can see the desktop and you can hear them and record all that. So I'll keep adding to this. I'm giving the same talk in a couple weeks to a bunch of developers, so hopefully I can get them on board with doing some of this. So I'll keep adding to that. So, cool. And if you want any following any of my tweets on design, or I'm a huge coffee nut, so my Twitter is all design and coffee. So follow me there. So, cool. Thanks.
Thank you again, Eric, and thank you, Media Barn, for hosting and for providing all this great food and drinks. It's about 8:20 now. Good to kind of mingle around, get network a little bit, but let's try to kind of get out of here about people got families to get home to. So he's giving this talk. In a couple of weeks. Yeah. So he would love some feedback. So free to come up to him and give him feedback. Yeah. Yeah. If you have any feedback for us, you can let one of myself or any of the other organizers know. If you guys want to come up here and do a talk, reach out to us. You can get us on Meetup. I think we also have. We have our contact information on that. Yeah. I'll put it back there. But yeah, if you also want to sponsor, also let us know. And thank you. That's all I have.